Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's RCSLT webinar, Navigating Your New CPD Diary. I'm very pleased to be introducing this webinar, as I know that continuing professional development is a topic that's very important to members. The RCSLT's CPD Diary is a great way to record your goals and the learning that you do, and I hope this session will give you an opportunity to learn more about how to make the most of it. It's also a chance to tell us how it could be improved. It's one of a few digital tools that we offer members, all of which we're really keen to refine and develop to make them as useful as possible for you. My name is Rachel Purkett. I'm the Director of Engagement and Communications at the RCSLT. And I'm pleased to be joined today by my colleague Mark Singleton, who is our Learning Officer. He's well versed in CPD requirements and the diary itself. So just a few housekeeping notes before we start. The webinar will be 45 minutes long with time for questions at the end. You'll see at the right-hand side of your screen a Q&A button where you can send in questions. There's also a chat button you can use to contact us if you're having any technical issues. Just to let you know, the webinar is being recorded and will be up on the RCSLT website in about 2 weeks. If you'd like to tweet along with the session, please do use the hashtag RCSLT Webinar. We hope that at the end of this webinar, you'll know more about the CPD Diary and how to use it to record your professional learning goals and activities. So I'll hand over to Mark now.
Hello, everyone. Firstly, thank you for joining us today. It's great to see so many of you have joined us. It's lovely. What I'm going to do for the first part of the run through, I'm actually going to share my screen and do it live with you. So give me a moment to get all set up. So hopefully everyone can now see my CPD diary. And so what I'm going to do is just run through kind of what everything does on the main screen, have a chat through the basics of recording CPD activities, cover a little bit about goals, how you might want to use them. And then I'm just going to run through some kind of RCSLT tips, tricks, and FAQs. So first of all, for anyone who needs to know how to access the CPD diary, you do need to be logged in on the main RCSLT website first. But once you are, this button up the top here that I'm kind of hovering over now, if you click on that, that's a drop-down menu, and just click CPD diary, and it'll take you straight to it. So let's get cracking. So first of all, if I just run through kind of what this part of the screen is all about. So up here in this grey box that's kind of titled Your CPD Diary, the first thing you'll see is the filter. So just to note, the filter defaults to the current calendar year. So a question that we get asked quite frequently is, I've created an activity and now it's disappeared. It may just be that if you've created it for maybe the tail end of 2019, if the filter's still set to 2020, it won't show up automatically. But to change the filter, you can either choose a different calendar year, so either 2018, whatever's there. Do make sure you hit filter afterwards, because that's what tells the diary to actually filter it. You can also choose all. If you've got a lot of entries, so if you've got, kind of 10 years worth of CPD diary entries, that page might take a while to load, but it is possible to view it all. Or you can choose a custom date range. So you can amend either of these two date boxes. So if you wanted to filter it more by an academic year, you can change those dates there. Again, just make sure you hit filter once you've got the date range you want, and the diary will show you everything within that range. But for now, if I leave it as 2020. And there we go. So next, you've got two buttons up here for add an activity and create a goal. I will go through activities and goals in far more detail in a moment. But in order to create them, you either use these buttons up here, or you can use these buttons down here as well. So there are a multitude of ways to create both. And finally, in this grey box, you'll see the export button. That's right on the right-hand side. If you click that, you'll get a confirmation, but this will send you an Excel spreadsheet of everything that's in your diary, and it goes straight to your email. And if you're being audited by the HCPC or something like that, that's probably the first step to get an export of everything that's in your diary so you can start to work through it. Just a little bit below, and like I said, you've got those two buttons there that you can use to create a goal or add an activity. And then to the right of that, you'll see the health check box. So firstly, to note, it does only display activities from the current calendar year, and that won't change if you change the filter. So it is, for now, just set to the current year. It may also not show activities that are deemed incomplete. So obviously, if the date is still in the future, it won't update here just yet. If you haven't completed all 4 of the reflection boxes, it won't show up there. And again, when we go through the diary, go through the activities in a little more detail, I'll run through what the reflection boxes are. But as a quick summary, the reflection boxes are there to bring the diary slightly more in line with HCPC requirements around CPD. And finally, for an activity to show in here, you need to have told the diary how long that activity took. So give it a duration, so an hour, 2 hours, however long it lasted. And then below that, you have several different lists depending on what goals you've already set. Any goals that are unassigned to, any activities that are unassigned to a goal will show in this first list here. Also, any goals with no date, any activities with no date will show in here as well. And then below that, you can start to drop down your CPD goals to see what activities you've got listed under that. So that's it for kind of the first screen. So what I'm going to do now is move on to the basics of recording CPD activities. So an activity is just an individual piece of CPD. So it, for example, this webinar would count as 45 minutes of CPD for you. But it could be anything that you would count as CPD. So that could be a formal course, it could be a YouTube video, an online article, it could even be just a conversation with a colleague that kind of made you think about your clinical practice and maybe nudged you towards doing something slightly different. Whatever it is, if you click one of the add an activity buttons, you'll get this first screen. So just pop a name in. So if like I said, I'll be doing this live with you, so forgive me if my typing fails me at any stage. But pop a title in. At this stage, you can assign it to one of your professional development goals. You're not obliged to, and this isn't the only chance you'll get to assign that activity to a goal. So don't worry if you don't want to do it straight away, you don't have to. But just click save. And then, like I said, it will show up in this top one, activities without professional development goals. If you did assign it to a goal at that stage, it will show up under that goal instead. But just find it and click on the blue title, and you'll get kind of what we see as the main bulk of the activity. So this is where you record all the information about that activity. So like I said, you can add the professional development goal at that stage. Again, you're not obliged to, but it can help to kind of collect similar bits of CPD together. But if you were to start typing, it would start searching your goals for you, and you just click on the one you want to assign it to. The type is just the HCPC activity types. So let's call this one work-based learning. But again, do check the HCPC website if you're not sure what certain types of CPD count as. They've got some very good descriptions on there. The next box down is where you'd fill in the description. So just a very, very basic summary of what you did. There is, in the reflection area, a chance to fully explore what you did as part of the activity. So this is more of an introduction, if you like. So if I go with listened to RCSLT webinar on Cpd Diary, and already my typing has failed me. Next up is the date, so fairly self-explanatory, just when the activity happened. And then the duration. So like I said, the date and the duration do need to be included in order for the health check box to pick it up. And you can enter whole hours and kind of minutes in 15-minute blocks. And once you're happy with kind of what I see as the left-hand side, so to the left of this line here, just click update, and you'll get that little green banner at the top to say that it's been saved. If you don't want to reflect immediately, you don't have to. You could exit out at this stage, and it will just save it. So I've assigned it to a goal now, so it sits in there. But it will just save it there, and you can reflect on it as and when you're ready to. And again, to do so, just click on the title, and you'll get back to this screen again. So the reflection boxes, like I said, are very closely aligned to what the HCPC are looking for in terms of CPD. So they want to know what you did, what you learned, what that has kind of made you do differently as a result, and ultimately who benefited from that learning and from what you now do differently. So like I said, what did you do is just where you go into a little more detail about what happened. So I'm not going to spend ages typing this, but I'll pop it in really quickly. And my typing again has failed me. And what you learned might be how to record CPD. What you now do differently, potentially most of you are already recording CPD, but you might now learn how to use the RCSLT diary more efficiently. And then who's benefited from that? Obviously, a lot of the time your CPD will be, the ultimate beneficiary will be your service users. But in this case, maybe it's just you personally. So forgive my dead air while I'm popping that in. And again, make sure you hit update and see that green banner at the top there that says it's been saved. This is also the area where you can upload related documents. So for example, if you've attended a formal course, you might have like a course certificate. Certainly on the RCSLT CPD site, when you complete some e-learning, you may get a PDF certificate, and you can upload that here. So you just click upload, and that will bring up the dialog box where you can search through to find the document and just upload it from there. And it also means you can view that document from here at any time, sort of in the future. And similarly, you can add related links. So if the CPD you did was a YouTube video or maybe an online article that you found in a journal, you can add the link in there so that, again, you can access it again if you need to. And once you're happy with everything, again, make sure you hit update and close it. And it will now show in here, because I've done all of the things that I needed to do on that activity in order for the health checkbox to pick it up. So I've given it a date, I've given it a duration, and I've done my 4 reflection boxes. And in essence, that's it for activities. If you have inadvertently created multiples of the same activity, or maybe you put an activity in advance and then for whatever reason didn't complete it, you can delete them. So again, just find the activity that you want to remove, click the arrow to the right hand side and hit delete. That will then give you a confirmation box, and just press delete if you're certain you want to. If you delete an activity by mistake, do let us know. We can still see it for another 5 days after you've pressed delete, and we can restore it within that 5 days. So do let us know. Please don't panic. Just get in touch with us. You can email cpd@rcslt.org, get in touch with us on our website. just let us know and we'll track it down for you. Like I said, that's kind of the basics of activity recording. So next I'm going to have a quick look through the CPD goals. So first of all, a question we get asked quite a lot is if you as a diary user are obliged to use goals. And the honest answer is not at all. Like I said, we've put them in to try and help you organize your CPD a little easier. But if what you'd prefer to have is just a basic list of all of the CPD you've done, that's absolutely fine. So if I scroll down ever so slightly, so this list here, activities without professional development goals, you can just store everything in there and that's absolutely fine. If that works for you, that's fine. What we saw goals as being useful if you are potentially working towards a larger development aim. So you can look at CPD goals as almost like the learning equivalent of your work objectives. So you're not going to complete your work objectives in a single day or with a single piece of work. You're more likely to do them over 6 months, over a year. And we see goals as being largely the same. So for example, you might have an overall CPD goal of improving your presentation skills. So there's going to be a lot of activities that would sit under that as helping you to get to that point. So hopefully that's kind of run through them a little more for you. And in terms of how you actually create a goal, you can use, like I said, there's two ways of doing it. You can either click create a goal up here, or you can use this one as well. It leads to the same place. And kind of similar to activities, you'll get kind of like a basic box to fill in. So give your goal a name. I always mostly seriously say give it a name that will mean something to you in 6 months' time. I'm going to call it presentation skills. And then in the description box, do try and stick to SMART goals. So make it specific, make it measurable, make it achievable, realistic, and time-bound. For the sake of convenience here, I'm just going to type improve presentation skills. That's probably not a good enough description, I'd say, but you can also, and again, you're not obliged to, but you can assign it to one of the RCSLT core capabilities. You're not obliged to if you prefer not to, but if you feel it does rather nicely fit into one of those, you can pop it in. Put a target date in, so it can be pretty much any time. Let's say I want to get that done by the end of this year. And then the status, you do need to put an initial status, but if you don't necessarily want to constantly update it, you're not obliged to. But you can just leave it as in progress. Hit save. And again, if we scroll down, it will now show up here. So you can drop it down. At the moment that I've not got anything saved against it. If I wanted to add a CPD activity to that, I could either create a new one right from the goal window. So just hit create activity and I'll go through the same process. Or as I've already shown you, you can set up an activity independently and then assign it afterwards. And if you want to in any way amend the goal, just click details and feedback. And you'll see all the bits and bobs you've already put in. You can adjust those. So if you no longer think you're going to hit your target date, you can maybe change it. So let's say I'm giving myself an extra year. No, I'm not. I can update the kind of the status of the goal. So if I've moved to complete, and I just hit update, and again, wait to see that green banner. Or if I've decided it's not a goal I actually want to continue with, or I put it in by mistake, or you've made maybe 2 of them by mistake, again, just hit delete goal. The same rules apply. If you do it by mistake, you've got 5 days to let us know. Otherwise, you'll need to reset it. If you had activities attached to a goal that you then deleted, they all just go back into the activities without professional development goals list. So you won't lose activities that have been attached to a goal that you delete. It's just the goal you're removing. And in a nutshell, that is how to use the CPD diary. I'm hoping that's been useful, and I'm going to stop sharing the screen for now and hop back into the presentation. So hopefully everyone can now see my my webinar screen instead. And we'll get going with the rest. So a lot of what I went through there was, while not specific to NQPs, there are some differences with the Nqp diary. So as an Nqp, when you log into your diary, you'll find that you don't have the option to create a goal, but you will instead have all of the Nqp goals automatically populated in your diary. If for any reason you don't, do get in touch with us. We've had maybe 1 or 2 instances where it's happened, and it is very easy for us to upload them to your diary for you. So please don't panic if they're not there. But like I said, the Nqp competencies are now more linked to our CPD diary. And what that means is that as long as your supervisor is also an RCSLT member, they will be able to review all your activities and the evidence you upload against those goals through their own diary. So if you are doing remote supervision, or your supervisor can't always be in the same room as you, that's no longer necessary. You can just let them know that you've added some evidence to a few of your goals, and they can log in for themselves, have a look. There's a chat function on each goal. So if you'd like some feedback on how you're doing, you can ask for that, and they can leave it that way instead. Ultimately, what we're trying to do there is just make the system a bit easier, make the Nqp process a little bit simpler and smoother for everyone. The other advantage to it all being on the CPD diary is that once your supervisor kind of officially, formally signs you off on all of your goals, our membership team get an automatic notification to let them know that you have been signed off, and we can begin to kind of get the process going for getting you upgraded to certified membership. So other than that, there's no real differences between the Nqp and regular diaries. It's just you won't be able to create goals, but all of the information around creating activities, linking them to goals, that's all exactly the same. And finally, just in terms of, like I said, the last part of this from me is just going to be around some FAQs we get, some top tips from us. So one of the big questions we get a lot is around adding an activity, click to save, seen that green banner appear, but it doesn't show up when you try to find it. That's more than likely going to be to do with the filter. So it, like I said at the start, it may be that you've added an activity for the tail end of the previous year. Certainly at the start of this year, we got a lot more questions around it. So just make sure you've adjusted the filter to show the time period for which you're adding that activity in. Obviously, if you still can't find it, do give us a shout. Let us know, because we can also have a look for you. I mentioned this a few times, but if you inadvertently delete an activity or a goal, just let us know. We can reinstate them, but please let us know within 5 days. We can't do anything if it's longer than that, because it is auto removed from our side of the system as well at that stage. Another question we get a fair amount is people who have reflected on and completed a number of activities, but the hours aren't showing up in their health check. First of all, make sure you have put a time period on that activity. It does need to know how long you spent on it in order to show it, but it will only show activities from that current year. So if it's an activity from the tail end of the previous year, it won't show up in the health check. If you'd like to see kind of a summary of all of your your CPD activity, you can export. I showed you earlier that export button on the diary. That will give you an Excel spreadsheet with everything. I believe that's me done. So I'm going to hand back to Rachel. And again, thank you to everyone for dialing in and listening.
Thank you so much, Mark. That was really helpful. I hope everyone listening found that to be a useful overview of the CPD diary and that you've got some good tips to take away from you. With you, I have a few questions coming through, so I'll share those with you, and then it'd be great to hear your answers, Mark. So the first question is, are the Nqp goals only added to the diary once you qualify or change your status from student to Nqp?
They are, yes. So the auto population of the goals happens when the diary, like, kind of, for want of a better word, notices that you've become an Nqp. If you're a student and you want to have a look at the goals, they are on our website as well. So you can have a look through them there. There's nothing to stop you starting to think about how you might work towards some of them. But yes, you do need to be an Nqp as a membership category in order for them to populate in the diary.
Great, thank you, Mark. And here's another question. Why does one have to update the left and right-hand areas of the activity entry separately? I keep losing my data and having to go back and fill it in again.
The honest answer is I don't know precisely why it has to be done. It is something we're looking at the moment. We're looking, like Rachel said at the start, we are looking at simplifying and streamlining a lot of the processes that happen on the diary. So for the moment, please do make sure you do both update buttons on both sides. But like I said, it's something we're looking at updating and improving in the near future.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So here's a further question. I'm in a specialist AAC post, which will be my final job before retirement. So I struggle to identify goals in the way that the new log suggests. I'm hoping to learn how to manage my log without the goals achieved section being so prominent. Do you have any advice on that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like I said, you're not obliged to use them at all if you don't want to. And that kind of list of activities without a goal that I showed everyone, that will always be at the top. So if you just want a list of your activities, that can sit there. Any other goals will always be underneath that list. And you can also use the function in slightly different ways. So the way I've presented it here is very much as a kind of overall, what are the aims of your CPD type thing. You could instead look at it more as an organizational framework. So you could have maybe one or two goals with the heading mandatory learning as one goal, and maybe personal interest as another goal, and then kind of use those as almost repositories for the different types of learning you do. So it is up to you. Like I said, you're not obliged to use them at all. And if you do want to use them, you don't have to use them as goals necessarily. You can just think of them as an organizational thing instead. I hope that's helped. That was quite a wordy answer.
Thanks very much, Mark. That's helpful. Another question, is it possible to import or export activities from my Outlook calendar to add them to the CPD diary?
Again, I'm afraid not at the moment. But as I've already said, we don't necessarily see the diary as completely finished and done. There are some things we'd like to improve, and we would like member input on that. So while it's not possible now, I don't want to say it never will be. I also don't want to guarantee that it will be. But I think in short, for now, I'm afraid not, no.
Okay, that's really helpful. And just one more question. I'm having some difficulty with my logging my CPD goals. Where can I get some help from the RCSLT?
You are more than welcome to drop us a line at the learning team if you'd prefer to kind of talk it through. If you email cpd@rcslt.org, either myself or one of my colleagues will be more than happy to kind of talk it through with you. We do also have some more general guidance on goal setting on the website. So it's in the from the menu, it's in the learning section. If you just want to have a quick read through that, and if you'd like to do both, feel free to have a read through and then give us a call, whatever works.
Thank you so much. And thanks very much for everyone who joined today. I hope you found this to be a useful overview of the CPD Diary. If you do have any questions and might get in touch with us, as Mark said, you can email us at cpd@rcslt.org. We'd be very grateful if you'd fill out the evaluation form that was going to pop up in a new window after this webinar ends, and we'll also send it out to you in a post-webinar email. Please do let us know if you found today useful. And please join us for future webinars as well. On your screen, you can see the next one coming up, Love Your RCSLT Hubs, on the 18th of February at 1 p.m. Thank you.